Hey guys, here's a cheat code recipe for you, and this is a dessert which is under $10. All you need is milk, bread, eggs, sugar, and cream. This is what happens when you're balling on a budget. So today we'll be making bread and butter pudding, which is thrifty cooking at its very finest. Now the other day I went down to my favorite bakery and got a bunch of croissants to throw a croissant party, and as you can see I've got loads of leftover. So I'm going to be using this to make my bread and butter pudding, but simply you can use any bread you have lying at home, sandwich bread, baguette, whatever it may be, as long as it can absorb the bread and butter pudding. Even if you have pound cake lying at home, you can really try this recipe too. So let's get started. All I need is to make a custard first. This will include adding some cream. Not using too much cream in my recipe today, but you need a little bit of it because you want that unctuous custard at the very end of it. And then I've got some milk as well. Now I'm just gonna mix that up. Honestly, there is no hard and fast rule for this custard. You can play with any ratios you like, but the only thing I would tell you is not to use skim milk because you need that fat in this. You need that fat to give the custard the texture that it needs. After that, I'm gonna add some cinnamon. This is completely optional, but if you got it lying around at home, why not use it? And also some salt. Now I know it's a sweet recipe, but I'm using some salt because you don't want that cloying sweetness in it, and the salt kind of balances all of that out. So that's half of the custard done. Gonna put that aside, and now I'm gonna mix together eggs and sugar. I've got 2 eggs here, and I'm gonna use 1 tablespoon of sugar. That's because I'm using almond croissants today, but if you're using plain bread at home, I would suggest you to use about 3 tablespoons of sugar for this amount of custard. That's 1 tablespoon there. I'm gonna whisk it up. So now the sugar has dissolved, we pour in the first half of the custard which we made. Mix that together nicely and then set that aside while you prepare your bread. Alrighty, so crazy croissant party, but I've got lots left as well, so I'm just gonna cut these up. I've got a mixture of almond croissants, plain croissants, brioche as well, so anything works. You just wanna cut them up into uniform sizes. Just gonna put that in a bowl. Got some brioche as well. Oh, nice fluffy absorbent bread. But like I said, sandwich bread works perfectly fine as well. I've tried it with wholemeal bread, super yummy. It's the best way really to use up your stale bread. This recipe calls for stale bread, but honestly you can use fresh bread as well. I've tried it before, it doesn't really make a huge difference. And this is basically just a recipe that gives you an option to give old bread new life. Woo! This recipe rocks my socks. So the next thing left to do is assemble everything together. Now before you do that, just make sure that your oven is preheated to 160 degrees. Now I've got my baking tin all buttered up. You can also use a muffin tin for this. It's great for the kids. Now if you want to find out more about my nifty little kitchen hack on buttering my baking tins easily, you can check that out on episode 1. Otherwise, let's start to assemble. Now I've got my bread here. All this bread. Now you're just gonna lay all these chunks on the bottom layer. Oh, look at all that buttery goodness. So now that I've got 1 single layer of the bread, I'm just gonna add in the custard. Now you wanna pour that in nicely to coat every single bit. This acts as the binder of the bread and butter pudding. You can do bread and butter pudding just as it is, but I've got some chocolate lying around at home, some bananas which are overripe, so this is the perfect place to use them all. I'm just gonna put a little bit of them in between each layer. You can use anything you want. If you're one of those freaks that like raisins, you can put them in here. Otherwise, you can use cranberries, dried apricots, you can use peanut butter, you can use white chocolate, anything that you have lying around. Honestly, this is the best place to dump everything that you probably won't be using very quickly and it's gonna go bad. You can also put some jam in here, some honey, anything you wish. Also, I've got some chocolate chips. Now, if you wanna be a little bit cheeky, you can put in some booze, some rum, some brandy, some Baileys, anything you like. So that's my first layer done. I'm gonna add my second layer right now. So the sequence is bread, custard. So you wanna continue doing this until you reach the final layer of the tin. And I'm someone that loves my different textures, so I'm gonna add some crunched walnuts on top as well. You can use anything you want. You can use almond slices, you can use pecans, you can use hazelnuts, oh, anything. This makes the best breakfast dish. Now this is ready to be popped into the oven at 160 degrees for about 35 minutes or until the custard sets. Now the bread and butter pudding is done. It's the moment of truth. Let's get it out of the oven and dig right in. All right. It smells heavenly. Look at it. All right, so there you go. Bread and butter pudding, under $10. Old bread, new life. Try it at home and may the food be with you. Try this recipe at home, snap a picture, and tag me at TheCharlotteMei on Instagram. Leave a comment down below to tell me what you'd like to see next, and don't forget to click subscribe. Episode 8, take 6. Naughty, naughty girl. Okay, so this recipe calls for stale bread, but honestly, you can use fresh bread as well. I've tried that before. It doesn't make a huge difference. This is just a recipe from, it's just a, so I know this recipe calls for stale bread, but honestly, you can use fresh bread as well. It doesn't really make much of a difference. I've tried it before, but this recipe, it just gives you a way to give old life new bread.
What's wrong with you?
Old life just falls like most easily. Old bread, old bread, old bread, old bread, old bread. This has chocolate inside. Oh my gosh, what? I've got my baking tin all buttered up. Now, if you want to check out more about this nifty little chicken.
How did the chicken came
Kitchen. She was supposed to say kitchen. She said nifty little chicken.